Hey everybody, it's Corey from CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, and I just saw Captain Marvel, written by Annette Boden, Ryan Fleck, Geneva, Robertson-Dworet, Nicole Perlman, and LeFauve, and directed by Annette Boden and Ryan Fleck. So I caught Captain Marvel last night at Cinemark in Baldwin Hills. I was looking around just because I wanted to see Captain Marvel in a more exciting format. So I could have seen it in 3D or 4DX at Regal, but I decided that I wanted to try something new. So I made the drive out to Baldwin Hills and checked out their D-Box, which is kind of like 4DX, but for Cinemark. And it was interesting. It was discount night there at Cinemark, so it was $11.50, which is real steal for something like 4DX. And it wasn't quite the same as the 4DX experience that I had at Spider-Man, with it being different formats. The D-Box is really just the seat moving along with the action, not so much like, the water spray or the air or any of the other things that happen with it. The seat doesn't like pitch back and forth either. It just sort of it shakes accordingly with the action on the screen. And with the combination of 3D, I thought it worked out really well. I don't know if I would pay a huge premium to do the D-Box experience unless it was discount night. I mean, so with discount night, it was the same price as if I went to the D-Box with 3D or if I went to just the 3D by itself. So I figured I might as well give it a whirl. And yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. So if you have the opportunity to see this in like D-Box or another sort of extra kind of format, then definitely go do it. So the plot of Captain Marvel, I don't want to get too far into it because it's sort of a disjointed timeline. I mean, like the timeline goes in order, but the things we learn along the way are sort of based off of flashbacks and stuff like that. But essentially, Brie Larson, Carol Danvers, is a Kree soldier, and they are in a constant blood feud with another alien race, the Skrull. And the Skrull are sort of being seen as like this invading force that likes to destroy cultures as it goes by. And there's an attempt to try and save a Kree spy who is on a planet being held by, they're fearful is going to get taken by the Skrull. And in the process of trying to save this informant, Carol Danvers gets shot off into the planet we would know as Earth, and basically has to wait out the situation and wait for everyone to come save her. And that's when she meets Nick Fury, who has questions about who she is and where she came from, and onward from there. So up front, really enjoyed the flick. I feel like this movie had a more difficult time than usual movies in the Marvel MCU, mostly because we sort of already know the backstory of a lot of these. And because Captain Marvel has had many different iterations and many different people playing Captain Marvel, it's sort of hard for the casual person to know exactly what the story is. So you gotta do an origin story while also helping you connect all the tissue of all the other different stories, while also trying to set up things for Avengers Endgame, and it's just a lot of things that sort of have to go into this. But even being sort of a precarious story to have to tell, I think they did a really good job. It didn't. There were some points where it felt a little bit too exposition-y. So exposition, for anyone who isn't aware, is like when a character walks in and gives the information that the audience needs to have, but does it in a very sort of like, well, you all know the Skrull are the people who are causing all the trouble, and then you know just from that line of dialogue that the Skrull are the problem. And even though it doesn't make sense that that character would actually say that out loud, it helps. I mean, famously, there was a character in Austin Powers named Basil Exposition, who basically worked the same as Q in the Bond franchises, where just came out, told everything that you needed to know right up front, and it was a funny way of doing it. There's not really a better way of doing exposition other than that, and this film sort of feels that at times. I also feel like if we had told the story in a more linear path, where it wasn't sort of like trying to come back on these repressed memories and getting little bits at a time, and the story followed more of a traditional storyline where we sort of go in order. Like, so if we were telling the story where we start the movie with Carol Danvers being an Air Force pilot and everything like that, and sort of the life before, it would be a little bit... It's a tough balancing act here, but I feel like they did... all the writers involved in this did the best they could to sort of set this world up. And, like a Captain Marvel 2, assuming that, like Endgame doesn't end everything for Captain Marvel, would be a lot more fun and a lot more... it would just be allowed to let loose a little bit. And I think that's when the Marvel movies are at their best. When you set up a character, like Thor Ragnarok was great because you set up... we already know who Thor was. We had him in multiple Thor movies. We had Avengers. We had all that. And this gave him the opportunity to just sort of have fun. And this is sort of the work that it takes to get to the place where you're allowed to have fun. But this was fun as well. So as far as the acting in this flick, I feel like the top of the call sheet here is where all the really serious acting is going on. It's not that there aren't great actors who do great things that are lower down on the call sheet per se, but Brie Larson was really good. Samuel L. Jackson was really good. Ben Mendelsohn was probably my shining star of this thing. I wish he wasn't trapped behind the mask for most of it. When you actually get to see Ben Mendelsohn as like a real actual person, he's so dynamic and engaging. Jude Law, Annette Bening, Lashana Lynch, all these people take up most of the time. There's sort of like a little bit of Agent Coulson and a little bit of like the other Kree warriors that fight with Brie Larson, but nobody really pops through. It's a star driven sort of thing going on here, and everyone does exactly what they're supposed to be doing. It's a very well cast project. I think the only problem I had from a couple times in this is that there was a couple people, mostly Annette Bening and to a lesser extent Brie Larson, where the acting of a superhero movie sort of seemed to be diametrically opposed to the type of acting that they do on a day-to-day basis. So it felt a little bit... like Annette Bening just sort of felt slightly out of place. Like, it didn't quite feel like she was able to 100% connect herself in the character that she was playing. Not that it was a bad performance, just that it was... It'd be like if Michael Jordan started playing baseball for some reason. That would be a really weird thing to happen. And it you could tell that he's an athlete, but you would just be like, what? This doesn't look quite right. And maybe you should go back to basketball and win a couple more championships. But, it was all fine. It really, it's kind of nitpicky. I really enjoyed the flick, and I think that there's something to be said about different types of actors in these parts as well. And I think Brie Larson for sure is a different kind of actor for sort of a superhero movie. And it's a good thing because she's a very talented actor, and it helps when you have incredibly talented people trying to do new things. It makes it easier to get the process moving. All that being said, I feel like this flick feels a little bit different from the rest of the MCU. Mostly just because it has... It kind of has an awkwardness to it, and it doesn't sort of break immediately through. So, I mean, when I saw Black Panther, for instance, like the shots of like plane of the crafts like flying into Wakanda, and when you get to actually live in Wakanda for a little bit and see what that's like, and it really really transports you right to this place, and it's so unique and like perfect and wonderful, and it literally feels like if I watched a movie about New York and I saw something, or I saw the Brooklyn Bridge, I'd be like, oh, I know what that's like because I've been there before. There was kind of a familiarity with Wakanda, even if you haven't seen it before. Obviously, you haven't seen it before, but I mean, like, there's sort of like this familiarity, like it's a real place that is already sort of set, and there's not that same sort of feeling immediately with the things that are going on here with Captain Marvel, where like the Kree and the Skrull sort of feels like it's not as fully baked, if that makes sense. I think that it is a worthy... It definitely fits in with the MCU. It definitely helps move the ball down the field. I really enjoy the direction they went with it, and I think that this film is going to set up the next one a lot better. When I said I was going to see Captain Marvel, somebody had asked me to take a little bit of time to talk about it in comparison to Wonder Woman. And I totally understand why that would be the case, seeing as Wonder Woman is sort of the defined female superhero of the DC universe, and this is Marvel's first solo female-led movie of the MCU. But really, that's sort of where the differences end, because Wonder Woman was and kind of is a different thing, and I don't like the feeling that, I mean, like, we should be comparing it as a superhero movie, not so much as just like a female-led superhero movie, just because there's nothing about it that makes something, like a female movie. Like, this isn't like a quote-unquote chick flick, if you will. It's just sort of like, it's out there as a part of a bigger thing, and just because the superheroes happen to be women doesn't mean that it's like a similar type of deal. That being said, I did like Wonder Woman more than this, and it's weird because I really have not liked any of the DC movies, the recent ones. I thought Wonder Woman was really great, and Captain Marvel is really great too, but it's not quite the same. It's completely different things, though, in a way, because it doesn't have to follow the same sort of... You're so far into the path of the MCU at this point, and with DC, they still hadn't figured out what they were doing when Wonder Woman was out, so it's still... It's not quite... You're looking at like a nearly finished building as opposed to a blueprint. Last thing I'd like to talk about, and this is going to connect with what I have been doing before with trying to spotlight somebody who is a little bit further down on the call sheet to talk about like incredible work done by the filmmakers and craftsmen on this movie. Samuel L. Jackson is digitally de-aged for this movie, so he looks like he did in 1995. And Marvel has done this specifically a couple times now. They had Robert Downey Jr. de-aged. They had Kurt Russell de-aged. This effect is not new for the MCU. But we've never had an entire movie, essentially, where we had a character de-aged. And the tech behind making this happen was sort of like either having... a lot of times what they do is they sort of have like this little camera that like sits on your head and sort of gets all your facial motions. Or they could be doing it with like a bunch of dots all over your face. The technology is getting better and better and better. And it it's nearly flawless in this. Like, I really spent a lot of time watching Sam Jackson. I wanted to sort of come into it blind. I didn't want to see like how the sausage is made before I went in. But when I saw Sam Jackson in this, I was like, damn, this is this is incredible. This is so like it really does feel exactly like a Sam Jackson from 25 years ago just came into this movie. And that's a total team effort, because there are a incredible amount of artists who basically go in and clean up little tiny, like, it's just like pass after pass after pass after pass after pass, just cleaning it up and making it look more and more like more natural. It's just all about trying to make it feel more natural. And this one, they really nailed it. I would say that there is a discernible difference between the work that was done on Sam Jackson to age him down than there was on Clark Gregg to age him down. The Sam Jackson one was a Picasso, and the Clark Gregg one was sort of like a more modern, like, unusual type of feel. Like, it didn't quite seem like it nailed it just right, but it was, if anyone had done that in any film that wasn't a Marvel movie, you probably wouldn't even notice it. It's so incredible. You're looking for the problems, I think, more with superhero movies, because the special effects budgets are so big. But Chris Townsend is the effects supervisor who helped make this happen, and specifically Lola SFX is the company that helped do all the de-aging stuff for Sam Jackson in particular. I know, but every single one of these artists, they all have a part to play in it. Part of the reason why I like doing this is because not a lot of people know who, like a first AC is, and what kind of importance they have to a film, and how a really good one can change how things work. And without the people at Lola SFX and Chris Townsend, then this thing would not have worked. I mean, the special effects on Sam Jackson were bad. This movie just wouldn't have worked otherwise. And it's a real credit to not only the VFX people, but to all the people at Marvel, Kevin Feige, and the directors on this, because it's really a yeoman's job done here. Highway to the leaderboard. This is the first time that I've seen a movie at the Cinemark in Baldwin Hills. Would definitely go check it out, especially on a Wednesday. That discount night deal is not too bad. Moving on to the movie leaderboard. Again, this movie is just a little bit weird, a little bit different, because it's constructed well. It's a house with a good base, so you got that going for you. But it sort of has there's a lot of things that are going into making the house, and it's not quite the same as being able to go visit someplace that's fully developed when you get there. It's living in a world where it can set up for things to come, and that's something that Marvel has to do from time to time, and it doesn't quite allow it to live its full best life. But if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a 7.8. I mean, really, incredible jobs all around by everybody. It's just such an unwieldy beast trying to make this thing work, and being able to fit all the right parts in all the right places without making it seem like some joyless march to the inevitable. It does a really good job for something that's incredibly difficult to do. Seeing as movies itself already are incredibly difficult to do. Anyway, that's it for me. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Please let me know what you thought about this. Leave a comment below. I always reply to comments. Like this video if you did. Subscribe if you want more. And please, if there's something out that's kind of a lull period right now in movies, there's not a whole lot of like exciting new stuff coming out other than Captain Marvel. So if there's something that you really want me to see, like, let me know. I'd be happy to go check something out and do a review. But that's about it. Anyway, if you don't mind, I have to go kill some Skrull or Kree. Which one is it now? I don't know. We'll figure it out eventually.